company known for cheap handheld games become one of the biggest toy giants of the 1990s and then lose everything trying to compete with Nintendo? Now, if you grew up during the 1990s, chances are you heard the sound. Those unmistakable electronic beeps and chirps echoed from school buses, family road trips, and the back rows of classrooms everywhere. Maybe it was Aladdin, maybe it was Sonic the Hedgehog, maybe it was a frustrating game that seemed absolutely impossible to beat. But whatever it was, there was a good chance it came from Tiger Electronics. For an entire generation, Tiger Electronics was everywhere. Their handheld games filled toy aisles, birthday gift bags, and Christmas stockings across America. They weren't the most advanced gaming devices, I have to say. Actually, they weren't even close. But for millions of kids, they were affordable, they were recognizable, and they were fun enough to keep them occupied for hours. Now, at their peak, Tiger Electronics became one of the most successful toy companies in the world. And then they made a mistake. And it was a very expensive mistake. It was also one that would change the company's future forever. Now, the story begins in 1978 in Vernon Hills, Illinois. Three brothers, Arnold, Gerald, and Randy Rissman, founded Tiger Electronics with a simple goal: create affordable electronic toys for kids. Now, at first, video games weren't even really part of the plan. The company focused on educational products, toy phonographs, and licensed gadgets tied to popular characters. From the very beginning, Tiger understood something many toy companies struggled to master. Brand recognition sells. If kids already loved a character, they were far more likely to want the toy. And that strategy became the foundation of everything Tiger did. So instead of spending years building original franchises, they licensed existing ones. Mickey Mouse, Kiss, The Incredible Hulk. Popular brands gave them instant credibility and, of course, instant customers. And over time, they became incredibly good at spotting trends. Now, one of their early successes came from reviving the 2XL robot, an educational toy originally introduced during the 1970s. And later, they turned the fictional Talkboy recorder from Home Alone 2 into a real product after kids flooded stores asking for one. Again and again, Tiger demonstrated an unusual ability. They didn't necessarily create trends, they capitalized on them. And that strategy would soon make them millions. So, as the 1980s ended, Nintendo completely changed the gaming industry with the release of the Game Boy. I remember it well. The device was absolutely revolutionary. It featured interchangeable cartridges, multiple games, and true portable gaming. But there was one problem. It was not cheap. For many families, a Game Boy represented a major purchase. The console itself cost significantly more than most toys, and each game required additional spending. So, Tiger saw an opportunity. Instead of competing directly with Nintendo's technology, they focused on affordability. Their handheld LCD games cost a fraction of the price. Most sold for around $20. Parents could buy them without making a huge financial commitment, and kids didn't care that they were technically inferior. Because Tiger had something else. Licenses. Lots of licenses. If a movie was popular, Tiger had a game for it. If a television show was successful, Tiger had a game for it. If a video game franchise was hot, Tiger probably had a version of that too. Sonic the Hedgehog, Jurassic Park, Batman, Street Fighter II, Mortal Kombat, the list seemed endless. Now, the technology itself was incredibly simple. Most Tiger handhelds used static background images with black LCD shapes appearing and disappearing to create movement. And compared to a Game Boy, the gameplay was primitive. But for younger kids, that didn't matter. The games were recognizable, they were portable, and most importantly, they were affordable. Tiger wasn't trying to beat Nintendo, they were targeting the kids whose parents weren't buying Nintendo. And I have to say, it worked brilliantly. By the early 1990s, Tiger Electronics had become a dominant force in the toy industry. Their handhelds were everywhere. And once they realized how successful the formula was, they expanded, and fast. One of their biggest successes came from virtual pets. When Tamagotchi exploded into a global craze, Tiger quickly introduced Gigapets. The timing was perfect. Millions of kids suddenly found themselves feeding, cleaning, and caring for digital animals attached to their backpacks. And the product became a massive hit. Then came Laser Tag, Brain Warp, Brain Shift, educational electronics, audio games, Tiger's strategy remained consistent. Find a trend, move quickly, get products onto shelves before competitors could react. By the late 1990s, annual sales reportedly approached hundreds of millions of dollars. Tiger Electronics had become an empire. And that's when things started going wrong. Success made the company ambitious. For years, Tiger had embraced its role as the affordable alternative. They understood their strengths and built a business around them. But eventually, they wanted more. They no longer wanted to be viewed as the budget option, they wanted to compete directly with the biggest names in gaming. And that decision led to one of the most infamous products in handheld gaming history. Before the disaster fully arrived, there was a warning sign. In 1995, Tiger introduced the R-Zone. Now, the device attempted to compete with Nintendo's Virtual Boy by projecting gameplay onto a visor worn by the player. Unfortunately, the experience was awkward, uncomfortable, and very confusing. The product failed. But Tiger wasn't finished. In fact, they were only just getting started. 2 years later, they launched the Game.com. Now, on paper, it sounded revolutionary. The device featured a touchscreen years before smartphones became common. It offered internet connectivity, it used cartridges, and it even supported email functionality through an optional modem accessory. Some gaming historians still credit it as one of the earliest handheld systems to experiment with features that would later become standard. The problem was execution. Almost everything about the device felt unfinished. The touchscreen was sluggish and inaccurate. The internet functions were limited and cumbersome. The modem required separate accessories and dial-up connections. And worst of all, the screen was, well, let's just be honest here, terrible. Fast-moving games became blurry messes, characters disappeared into smears, action games felt nearly unplayable. Tiger attempted to attract players with impressive licenses, including ports of Resident Evil 2, Duke Nukem 3D, and Mortal Kombat Trilogy, but the hardware simply couldn't support them properly, and the results were disastrous. Games looked bad, controls felt awkward, reviews were brutal, and consumers simply weren't interested. The Game.com tried to be a gaming device, an internet communicator, and a personal organizer all at once, and instead, it failed at all three. Sales collapsed almost immediately. Industry estimates suggest the system sold fewer than 300,000 units during its entire lifespan. Now, for comparison, Nintendo could sell that many Game Boys in a matter of weeks. So the financial damage was severe. Tiger had spent years succeeding by understanding exactly what they were. The Game.com represented the moment they forgot. Instead of competing where they had advantages, they challenged industry giants directly, and they lost. The failure weakened the company dramatically. Their momentum vanished, their reputation suffered, and larger competitors began circling. In 1998, Hasbro acquired Tiger Electronics for approximately $335 million. Now, on paper, the acquisition looked like a success, but in reality, it marked the end of Tiger as an independent force. The company that once dominated toy aisles across America was now part of a much larger corporation. And ironically, one of Tiger's biggest successes arrived immediately after the acquisition. That success was Furby. The strange electronic creature became one of the biggest toy crazes in history. Millions were sold worldwide, and demand became so intense that stores struggled to keep them in stock. But by then, Tiger Electronics was no longer truly Tiger Electronics. The company had become part of Hasbro's larger machine, and over time, the Tiger brand slowly faded into the background. Yet, something interesting actually happened years later. Nostalgia returned. The very handheld games that critics once mocked became beloved memories for an entire generation. Adults who grew up playing those simple LCD games started collecting them. Hasbro even re-released several classic Tiger handhelds to capitalize on that nostalgia. Because despite their limitations, those games represented something important. They were accessible, they were affordable, and for millions of kids, they were often the first gaming devices they ever owned. So what caused the rise and fall of Tiger Electronics? Well, the rise came from understanding the market better than almost anyone else. Tiger knew they couldn't out-tech Nintendo, so they focused on affordability, licensing, and speed instead. They gave kids recognizable experiences at prices parents could accept. The fall came when they abandoned that formula. The Game.com represented an attempt to become something they had never been. And instead of competing on their strengths, they challenged industry leaders on technology and innovation. And the results were devastating. But the legacy remains, because for an entire generation, Tiger Electronics wasn't defined by failure. It was defined by road trips, school lunches, birthday presents, and those unforgettable electronic beeps that seemed to be absolutely everywhere during the 1990s. Some companies are remembered for changing the world. Others are remembered because they were part of growing up. And Tiger Electronics will always be remembered for exactly that.